Today I'm going to talk about the second, third, and fourth allegation that veterans have brought forward about Panama Canal Zone, and Alvin Young was paid to write about in the Panama 2012 report. But today we're going to talk about number 2, 3, and 4. In Alvin Young's report, Investigations into the Allegations of Agent Orange in the Canal Zone and Panama in 2012, in Alvin Young's report on Allegation 2 from the veterans is that Agent Orange was shipped to Panama 100 to 200 drums in 1968 to be evaluated for its effectiveness in jungle vegetation for use in the war in Vietnam. Alvin Young's findings, quote, an extensive search of historical records did not verify the testing and evaluation of Agent Orange in jungle areas of the Canal Zone or Panama. Our findings of fact tell a different story. Sworn testimony regarding miscellaneous publication number 16 from the proceedings of the Third Defoliation Conference on August 10th and 11th in 1965, which is tab 8, volume 1 in my IG request, and it is sworn testimony of Mr. Charles Bartlett, who was a Detrick employee, stating just this fact. In his testimony, his sworn testimony, he said, quote, Agent Orange and other military herbicides were used and tested and shipped to many locations in the United States, and including Tennessee, Maryland, Georgia, and Texas and Fort Drum, New York, and also was tested in a number of tropical climate analogs, that is, vegetation areas that might match Southeast Asia jungle environments, and those locations were in Puerto Rico and in Panama and the Apalachicola National Forest in Florida. End of quote. Mr. Charles Bartlett goes on to testify, quote, in the late 1960s, several hundred drums was shipped to Panama. All of the material was originally shipped, at least the bill of lading called for shipment to Fort Clayton in the Canal Zone. That was an area under U.S. control, and it was a safe area with vegetation similar to Vietnam, and so we wanted to test it there. At the end of that testing program, a quantity of a number of 55-gallon drums were left in Panama, extensively under the control of Fort Clayton, and so that those drums remained in Panama for an indefinite period and were never shipped out of Panama, were left there permanently in Panama, and available for use by anybody who needed it, because at that time there was no idea that there was anything harmful about Agent Orange. End of quote. Allegation 3 in Dr. Alvin Young's report, coming in from the veterans, the excess drums of Agent Orange remaining after tests and evaluations were completed were left behind and used casually around various military installations in Panama for the control of weeds and shrubs. That is the allegation, and that is exactly what we found. But Dr. Alvin Young's findings, the expert for the government, says, quote, an extensive search of historical records did not verify that surplus Agent Orange was tested for weed and brush control in the Canal Zone. Records were found of the routine use of commercially available herbicides for unwanted vegetation control around military installations. The uses of these commercial herbicides were in accordance with the directives of the Armed Forces Pest Control Board. End of quote. Quote, however, as previously noted, the allegation that 100 to 200 drums of Agent Orange were sent to Panama and the Canal Zone for tests and evaluation is not substantiated. End of quote. Now, Alvin Young is the government's expert, and he has been involved in the Agent Orange project since at least 1970 from my research, and so he should damn well know that these herbicides were sent by the Armed Forces Pest Control Board under the DoD to be tested in Panama as outlined in the testimony of the Detrick employee that claims this very fact. These are the people that made up the Pesticide Review Board. Notice that the DoD is one program. It controls the disease and vectors and pests affecting personnel at all military installations in the United States. Here's the report that Alvin Young wrote when he was a first lieutenant for the Air Force in 1970, where he claims that all of the rainbows are used on base as vegetation management on page 3 of his report. Here is page 3 of his report where he claims that the rainbows have a common name, and as you see, 24D and 245T was indeed what was shipped on the FT-410 to Vietnam, Thailand, Panama, and many other U.S. territories. This is a fact by the scientific community. There is no difference in the 24D and 245T that was shipped, stored, and used in the Panama Canal Zone. Each year, the Department of Defense on the Pesticide Review Board would have to keep track of all the production and the exports of all the chemicals, and they would have to request to Congress money for these items. So we can see in the hearings on the U.S. production of the major pesticidal chemicals by calendar years. We can follow all of that information through Congress hearings. With that DoD production report to Congress in 1960, one of the exhibits is the pesticide situation for 6061. They would be requesting money from Congress to pay for the chemicals to ship them to the territories. And so if you go to the link for the pesticide reviews, you can see all years from 52 to 1976, I believe. These reports filed to Congress source the FT-410, like I said, the same ones that I showed the VA, that this stuff was shipped to Panama and Thailand, Vietnam. As you can see here, this is August 1960, and it doesn't show Thailand on here, but each month is different. So in those days there weren't computers, so it took a little bit of time to post, perhaps, or perhaps just that month Thailand didn't get any. I'm not sure, but all of these records from 1958 to 1977, December of 1977, can be seen from my website all in one document if you wish to download it. This is a picture of defoliation that took place. This picture is depicted by the State Department in their report on the Panama Watershed Project. So one picture is taken in 1952 and the other picture is taken in 1976. And as you can see, there was a whole lot of defoliation that happened in the Canal Zone. I just don't understand how they can use Dr. Alvin Young as their expert when he himself wrote the report in 1970 as a first lieutenant saying there is no difference, and he knows about the State Department defoliation in the watershed project. He has to know about the shipments through Commerce Department and about the review board and how they would list all the production and the exports and source the FT-410. Even in Dr. Young's 1978 report, he sources the FT-410 and lists the herbicides again as the rainbows. In the very least, the veterans deserve to know what it was that was shipped to the Canal Zone, and based on all the information from the GAO and other sources, it appears that we were in fact exposed to dioxin and we deserve to be heard.